Price is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for October 28th, 2025. Well, I hope everyone's having a good morning and everything is cranking for you today. No computer issues this morning so far. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, whatever I need to keep that happening. Let's take a look at what happened overnight. First off, if we take a look at Australian markets last night, down $43.10 or 0.48%. We had Hong Kong lower by 87.56 or 0.33% lower. South Korea was down 32.42 at 0.80 lower. The Nikkei fell 293.14 or 0.58% lower. India was down 29.85 at 0.11% lower. And Shanghai fell $8.72 or 0.22% lower last night. Let's take a look at what's going on in Europe this morning. Europe's got a little bit of a mix going on right now. The DAX is lower by 27.25 or 0.11%. FTSE is modestly higher by 64 cents or 0.01%, and the CAC is up by $3.59, or excuse me, down by $3.59 at 0.04%. If we take a look at U.S. futures this morning, U.S. futures, well, we're doing some modest gains and losses here in the market right now. Dow futures up $52. S&P 500 futures right now, it just ticked. It's been red. Now it is exactly flat on the day. And NASDAQ futures up $16.75 this morning. Let's take a look at what's going on in our dollar. Our dollar is a little bit weaker today, as you can see, pulling back. No problems yet. We still have this upside trend. We may just grab onto that area of price support right through there and that upside trend and see if that can push higher. Unfortunately, this is starting to look like a little bit of a lower high as well. So we're in that wedging pattern where we could pop through the upside or break on down here pretty easily. So watch that carefully in the dollar. If we take a look at what's happening in metals here this morning, my goodness, gold continuing to fall pretty strongly, down $91.40 an ounce, $3,929 an ounce here this morning. A little bit of rest, a little bit of pullback here. Watch that pretty closely, though. It's starting to get a little bit severe and showing that potential breakdown could come all the way back to some major support here. We might catch some support right in here, however, so watch that carefully. Silver also falling this morning. We've got silver futures at the moment down 67 cents an ounce at 46.10. 46.11 an ounce here this morning, so that's also pulling back. We've got copper moving lower here this morning, down by just over a nickel. We have platinum moving lower by 52.20 an ounce or 3.30%, and we've got palladium moving lower by 56.50 here this morning or 3.94%. If we take a look at cryptos this morning, cryptos are moving lower across the board. After a big move up in Bitcoin yesterday, IBIT at the moment is down 502, not IBIT, but Bitcoin itself is down 502.75 a coin at 0.44%. If we take a look at Ether, we've got Ether down 92.80 a coin, or 2.21% here this morning, and Solana is down 37 cents, or 0.18%. Whoops. There we go. Let's look at Solana. So keep an eye on those right across the board this morning in those cryptos. Let's take a look at what we have going on in oil prices here this morning. If we take a look at USO pulling back here today. Right now, oil futures down 72 cents a barrel at 60.55 a barrel here this morning. We have OPEC apparently increasing output plans to offset some of U.S.-China trade optimism. So kind of keep an eye on that. We've got Brent crude. Brent crude is coming in down this morning as well, coming in at 64.65 a barrel. And natural gas falling this morning by 15 cents. So keep an eye on those energy prices. XLE, we were starting to see some of the producers in here show some pretty good patterns. They might break down a little bit this morning as well with that pulling back. So let's take a look. Well, you know what? That's the end. How about we settle in? Let's buckle up. And let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. So good morning once again, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great morning. Let's take a look at these index charts, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at these charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. And we want to focus in pretty carefully on the actual price action of the chart, try to shake off that bias and really look at the charts for what they are. Now, if we take a look here at the diamonds, boy, there's just no way you can look at that chart with a bearish light. I mean, extremely bullish. The only problem is maybe a little bit euphoric in these gap and run moves that we've seen here in the diamonds. So watch that carefully. Blue sky above certainly looks possible, and with this morning's pop up, we could be setting a new record high here at the open in the diamonds. So every reason to believe that's possible. If the bears were to have anything to say here today, if we push down below yesterday's low, then we have that chance of falling into this gap, and it's going to be a pretty substantial pullback to fill that gap if that occurs. So watch that carefully. And you'll also want to keep in mind, if that were to continue pushing down, well, we've got that possibility we could come back to this major area of support. Remember, we've got a lot of earnings coming our way. So with those earnings, we can have anything possible happen here. And if we start to see some of those big tech reports stumble just a little bit, that's where some big selling could possibly come into play. Let's take a look at our SPY. Also, SPY extremely bullish, continuing to push to the upside. Gap and run, leaving big gaps behind. If the bulls can continue to find that upside inspiration, every reason to believe we'll have some more record highs and blue sky above that in the SPY. It's only if those bears get anything to say. If we were to push back down through yesterday's low, just keep in mind that is a huge gap that could be filled, and unfortunately those gaps tend to get filled pretty quickly if we run into anything that could stumble. Now the good news is here, we've created a nice area of price support right across here. So falling on below there, we have another gap that could be filled, but then we're going to catch a little bit of price support, and that's going to hold along that upside trend. So keep an eye on the SPY. Same thing here in the Qs. Unbelievable pushes here in big tech as we continue to force valuations higher and higher. The Buffett indicator yesterday went over 220. We've never been that high in valuation here in the market. Now, some may say the Buffett indicator is too old and too old-fashioned and doesn't work anymore. And that may be the case. I don't know. All I'm saying is that our valuations are higher than we have ever seen before. And typically that means a bubble is forming. Now, you never know how far a bubble can go. We could continue to create this bubble clear through the end of the year with no problem. But at the same time, we want to be prepared in case that bubble were to be popped. And we're right in that season here where earnings could do that if we happen to stumble on some of these earnings. So make sure you have a plan to protect yourself if the selling does begin. But that being said here, QQQ, pretty hard to see this in any kind of bearish light at the moment. Bulls are definitely in control. We could set new record highs today. Blue sky above, very possible. Again, the only problem we're going to have is if those bears push back. And if they push back and we break that low, we could quickly fall. Big points here to fill that gap here. So watch that carefully, and then notice we have another gap in here to bring us back down into this area of price support. So big moves are possible if we happen to catch some data here that's not so great here on the tech giants. Can't say that that's going to occur. In fact, the entire market seems to be pretty convinced that we're going to have blowout earnings on these companies, and that may be the case. Just consider the fact if they don't, how quickly this could shift. So have a plan to protect yourself. IWM had a good day yesterday, gapping up, made a new record high, and ended up closing down below that record high yesterday on the pullback. So IWM doesn't benefit, of course, from the big tech giants in here, and it gets left behind when we're partying so hard in tech. But watch this closely here. If the bulls can find any inspiration, really all we need to do is pop up through there to get a new high, record high close in the Russell. If the bulls can push on through there, just pop right on up, and then we've got blue sky above there in IWM. If the bears were to have anything to say, you could see pretty easily right in here how we could slip into these gaps. So we've got this pullback right in here that could occur, that could come back into that chart, and really easily that we could see that come all the way back down into here. Now, if I were to redraw this here, that's going to put us in that situation where we're still holding above trend, even if we pull back into here. But watch that carefully here for that big selling that could be possible if the bears have anything to say. If we take a look at our VIX here this morning, our VIX at the end of the day was rallying up just a little bit. Although the bulls are definitely in control here, and we gave up this downtrend in one fell swoop here with those gapping moves in the market, trying to see if they're going to hold some support here in this area. Pretty easy to see that possibility that we could continue to see the bulls pushing and pushing us right back down through that area of support, back down to some of these recent lows here in the VIX. So watch that carefully, easing up on a lot of that pressure. If the bears do have anything to say, though, we might catch a little bit of price support in here and start bouncing back up a little bit, so watch that carefully. Our T2122, this was really remarkable yesterday. I was expecting T2122 to first thing in the morning be up here in the bearish reversal zone. That didn't happen because the majority of stocks weren't moving up yesterday. It was just a big tech that was doing the majority of the lifting in the indexes. And as you can see at the end of the day, we actually had T2122 finishing up, pulling back here. So if the bulls have any inspiration today, we could easily see those bulls grab onto some of these support levels and trend in here and push this up toward that bearish reversal zone here in the market if we've got the energy to continue to stretch. If, however, those bears were to have anything to say, we have that same situation in here where we could break that upside trend and start pulling back. We've got much more opportunity for those bears to work right now. So hopefully those earnings are good to continue this move to the upside. If we take a look at T2108, T2108 was essentially flat yesterday. Percentage of stocks above the 40-day didn't really get anything done, even though we had all that extreme bullishness in the tech sector. So still below about 45%. I think there's a possibility if the bulls grab a hold here, we could see 45% be tested and broken pretty easily in that chart, and then we might progress on up here toward 50% of the stocks above the 40-day moving average being tested. If the bears were to have anything to say here today, we've got a little bit of support right there around 40%, and then on lower down here around 35%. So keep an eye on those. T2107 was also just ever so slightly higher, essentially flat on the day. Didn't quite make it up there toward that 55%. We are dealing with all this congestion here in the chart, but a little bit of bullish move. I see that possibility we could push right on up there to 55% if we can get some bullish action here in the market. If the bears were to find anything, probably wouldn't be a surprise to see us pull back from this resistance here, pulling back, but we've got some good support levels in the chart to hold. So I don't think I would panic on anything unless we see that real big reversal in price action. And then if we take a look at our T2101, unfortunately, breadth did not follow that bullish move yesterday. So we had that big bullish push in the tech sector yesterday, and we saw breadth of the market actually declining. So this is going to be critical in here. If we're going to continue this to move to the upside, we need to see those bulls step up with that breadth pushing this through to the upside. Watch that carefully. If we continue to move higher in the market and see that breadth declining, that's a problem, and that could invite those bears in. So watch that carefully here on the day. On the other hand, if the bears were to have anything to say and we suddenly see the bears start pushing that breadth here to the upside, then watch out for some big point moves and whipsaws in the market. Our T21, we've got that done. Let's go back here and let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, we've got a few things to be paying attention to, assuming we get the reports. First off, we've got the beginning of the FOMC. Will start today. Their announcement will not be until tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, with the Fed press conference there at 2:30. We've got an a Case-Shiller number that will be out here this morning. Case-Shiller is looking for pretty much a flat move here with 20 city adjusted month over month at a negative 0.1. That's similar to the last time, and year over year declining by 0.2 from 1.8 to 1.6. Consumer confidence is the most notable of the day here. They're looking for that to decline just slightly from 94.2 to 93.4. So keep an eye on that confidence number here today. We got a Richmond Fed manufacturing was negative 17 last time, but as I said, we had that negative number come in yesterday on the Dallas Fed, and nobody cared. So, and then we've got some bond auctions, 6-week, 52-week, 7-year bond auction, money supply report in there. So keep an eye on that. Let's take a look into Wednesday as you're planning ahead. We've got mortgage applications, international trading goods, both retail and wholesale inventory prices will be, or inventory numbers will be out. Pending home sales, petroleum status numbers, a couple of bond auctions, and then of course that FOMC, which will be the big news of the day. Remember, we'll know more and get through this, and we're going to hit some big tech reports Wednesday afternoon, so watch that carefully. Expect some volatility. Expect some volatility. Let's take a look at what we have going on in our earnings calendar. Sorry, I was looking for my starter here that I type out in the mornings. As you can see, we have a pretty sizable number of earnings today. There's no way I can cover all of these here this morning. Just keep an eye on these. Now, remember, really no giant tech companies are reporting today. That will begin tomorrow. But there's still quite a few notables in here that can move the market substantially. So take a screenshot of this if you want to follow some of those notables. Watch that closely. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you can do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. I do truly, truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of those stocks in here. Remember, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence and be very careful in this market, remembering that when we get into these earnings periods of time, there's going to be so many of those popping off. Anything is possible. If we get a hint of a little bit of additional bullishness, I see the market really surging to the upside. If, however, we happen to stumble on some of these big reports, that could be a problem here. So watch those carefully. One of the things that has been happening here the last few days is we are seeing a few of the old boring defensive and retail stocks starting to try and come back up a little bit. Keep an eye on Kohl's here. We've made this nice little rally back. Unfortunately, we got a lot of resistance in this chart, so it's not out of the woods here yet. But watch this carefully in this nice little controlled consolidation. If we happen to catch some bullishness in here, I could see that pop right on through. So watch that carefully here on Kohl's. Things like ALB, that's looking very, very bullish. Popped here nice in this big stretch up. Bit of volatility in it, but a little rest, a little pullback coming back in here to support. Watch for that next opportunity that may stretch on through to the upside. Pfizer has been struggling in here, and all of the drug makers have been struggling in here, but they're all trying to push back up and create these little higher lows. So I don't know if it's quite ready for prime time yet. Remember, it's still under this major downtrend, but watch that carefully. We do have a very bullish pattern in here. If those bulls were to step up, that could pop and go here pretty quickly. Now, Pfizer's going to report on 11/4, so don't be surprised if it has to wait until 11/4, and then the earnings will completely mess up that chart. If we take a look at TJ Maxx had a nice little setup in here, trying to hold this bullish pattern. If we can get a little bit of bullish energy coming in here, we might see that move right on through to the upside. Target has been trying to come up here nicely. Good strong move here in Target. Any little rest or pullback, I wouldn't want to chase this move up. But any little rest or pullback, if we could grab onto a little bit of price support with a little bit of rest, then I would have an interest in maybe jumping in there on target. So keeping a close eye on that. If we take a look, Caesar's Palace and a lot of these gambling stocks are not looking very good in here. And I think Caesars, although we've been rallying back up in here, we've got an earnings coming off here on this. I would watch this carefully. You can see as we continue to stair step down, we have broken through some major areas of support here in the chart. If this happens to stumble on any of the earnings, watch that carefully. That could continue to follow this downtrend to the downside. Keep an eye on that. Not looking so good here at the moment. USO trying to hold a higher low in here. A good strong popping move back up here on that United States oil fund, but we'll need to see if this OPEC change causes any issues. We really could sink this all the way back down. What I need to see in here is I need to see this gap. If we fill this gap in here and then hold, we might catch that higher low in here and actually start building an upside trend here on USO. So keep an eye on that. We also have a lot of the miners out here, metals, materials sellers, still in very, very bullish patterns. So watch that carefully here on VALE. Nice bullish pattern here, little resting pullback in here. Look for that next opportunity for that to potentially move to the upside. I'm going to continue, although I have a bias on this, continue to mention PRGS. We're in an interesting setup. Obviously, if we get additional follow-through bullishness in here, I think there is a possibility still that could push on through here. So keep an eye on PRGS, looking pretty decent. I think TTD is setting up here nicely. Now I put a really tight alert on this. You can see moving in this upside trend. We popped, found resistance, pulled back, found the trend and some price support, and now we're trying to hold in here. So if we can hold, we might have to fill out this wedge area here in the market. But then if it can pop through this area here, I think there's some really good upside that could potentially come here. Take a look at PayPal. Pay systems have been coming up, but PayPal getting a big boost today. They've made some kind of a deal with OpenAI, and that's all you have to do nowadays is make a deal with a AI provider of some sort, and use Zoom here in the market. Big pop up here, but I would keep an eye here on PayPal. If it can break through, PayPal's been underloved for a very long time, and you can see it is way down here, stuck in this range for a long time, multi-year. If that starts coming back up, there could be could garner a lot of attention and really start pushing that back to the upside. And I'm going to continue to talk about my XYZ in here as well. XYZ, another pay system, and that is showing a little bit of bullishness here, pushing back up here on that daily. Unfortunately, we still got to get out of this consolidating zone here. We need a little bit more bullish push in there to get it going. And I certainly couldn't rule out that pulling back. I am managing this based on a longer term or a weekly chart. So right now I've really got nothing to worry about, but it is going to report there on 11/6. So we may have to wait till that, and again, the earnings could mess up that nice potential setup here totally. So keep a close eye on XYZ in there. I'm still liking the way General Electric is looking. I mean GE, not General Electric. Really looking good in here on the aerospace side of that, really pushing up nicely here. I think there is a chance that this could push on through and just continue to show that strength here in GE, worth paying attention to. Take a look at Ford. Ford had that big move up here on earnings, resting back now. So if Ford could come back here into some of this trend right in here, rest right in this area, I would look for that next opportunity for Ford to move to the upside. When we take a look at General Motors, also stretching up, I think it needs a rest here before I'd be interested in it, but watch that closely. Still very, very bullish on that chart. Take a look at some of these aerospace and defense stocks like General Dynamics. Nice pop through here on earnings and now pulling back to rest, trying to hold that area of support in there. If that support can continue to hold, then I would watch that closely for that next opportunity for that to try and stretch on through to the upside. If we take a look at Northrop Grumman, Northrop reporting earnings, and that gapped lower, but it completely rejected that gap lower. So looking at this here, as you can see, we're trying to sneak out of that little downtrending area here in that chart, holding on to a pretty nice area of price support. If we can get some bullish action, it's still an if in this one, then I would watch that carefully for that bounce off of that area. Take a look at Steel Dynamics. Steel Dynamics has been doing extremely well with this nice steady push to the upside. A little bit of rest, a little bit of pullback would set up the next opportunity in here. But as we build out this country for AI, and it's just going to take a massive amount of building, I think we're going to need steel in here. CLF is a hold that I recently sold and made great money on this trade, but we'll want to also be keeping an eye on this. We came back into trend really fast and hard here on that earnings. Could be a little bit of a management problem in here, I'm not sure, but watch that carefully. If we pop back through this resistance and then prove to hold up here, I would look for that next opportunity in CLF to the upside, worth paying attention to. When we take a look at Nucor in here, Nucor getting a good push yesterday to the upside, so watch this carefully. Now, I'm going to report here on the 27th, which is unfortunately, just getting past that earnings report. Pushing in here, pushed real hard and then pulled back. But watch that carefully on Nucor after that report, breaking through this area up here. If it can hold, that would be a big deal in here. And perhaps it just holds a higher low and then it pops through, and that'd be my favorite pattern in there. So watch that carefully on Nucor as well. Trying to come back around. I would also continue to keep an eye on anything that produces energy in the market. First Solar continues to be very, very strong. I would keep an eye on that. Things like UEC. Now I have a bias here on UEC. I am holding this stock. Strong pullback in here, but we're finding support, and I think we could just chop our way out here to trend. But watch that carefully here on UEC. Looking good. URA trying to push up here. We have new news today that Google is bringing an old nuclear plant back to life. We're going to need a lot of uranium in this country, so keep an eye on some of these uranium producers out there. Could be interesting over the long haul here, so watch them carefully. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it and supporting the channel. You guys are awesome. I'll see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning. And as always, I wish you all the very best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.